So remember when we included our shortcode for the first time? We had to go a roundabout way to discover the unique ID of our survey. Well, let's make things a little easier this time by adding a custom admin column to our survey's admin page. So to see what I mean, let's navigate to that page now. So open up WordPress and let's go to our Snappy Surveys menu and click on Surveys. So this is the admin page for our surveys here. And you notice we've got this title. And we're going to add in a new column here that's going to say shortcode, and it's going to include a shortcode for that particular survey. So we can just copy and paste it. We're also going to add in another column for responses, which is going to display how many responses we've received so far for that shortcode. And as well, that response number will be a link to the stats page for those responses. All right, so to get going, let's open up our code editor. And we want to navigate to the filter section here, and below our last filter 3.1, hit return a couple times. So we're going to add in a new function in here. This is going to be function 3.2. And our function is going to be named survey column headers. It's going to take a single argument called columns. And here's what it looks like. So it's pretty basic. What we do is we take the columns coming in and we're going to override them with our own columns array. So when we set up the hook for this function later, WordPress will automatically submit this columns data to us. That's why we're able to include it here in our function. And here with columns, what we're doing is we're setting up an associative array. These represent the columns in our WordPress admin. So this title column right here, this is the title column, and this checkbox is the CB column. So you'll see that here, CB, that stands for checkbox. So we're re-including that column in. And then the title column, we're changing the value of that column header to survey. And we're using this little function here, this double underscore function. This is a built-in WordPress function for handling language translations. We're not really going to go into that in this course, but it's a good practice to use. And then we're adding in these two new columns here, responses and shortcode. And then we just set the column header title like that. So again, we know that this function is not going to run unless we call it. So we're going to add in a new hook. So let's go to our hook section now. And below 1.5, hit return a couple times. And we're going to add in this new hook. This hook is a filter hook. And we're hooking into something called manage edit. And so what it does is WordPress automatically generates a hook for our custom post type for manage edit, and that's why you'll notice this right here, SSP survey. That's the custom post type. If you'd like to know more about this filter, you can find that on the WordPress Codex over here. And if you'd like to know more about the manage edit post type columns filter that we're calling, you can find more about that over here. All right, so we're targeting the manage edit columns filter for our custom post type, and we just pointed that out here. So we're just including our custom post type in this portion here. And then we're saying, so for this filter, run this code over here. So this is the function that we just created. All right, so save your PHP file now. And let's go back to WordPress, back to our surveys list page here, and just reload the page. You should see two new columns show up now, responses and shortcodes. Now these are just the column headers that we've updated. So now we're gonna update the column data. So let's go back into our plugin now, our plugin PHP, and let's go to the filter section again. And underneath 3.2, we're going to add another function. So this is going to be 3.3. And this function is called SSP survey column data. And it takes in two arguments. One is column and one is post ID. And again, these are going to be passed in automatically by WordPress when we register the hook for this function. All right, so here's what we do. Firstly, we set up our return text in a variable called output, and we're just setting that to default to an empty string. Then we're using a PHP switch statement, which is basically a shorter way of doing if-elses. If you've got a lot of if and elses, you can use a case for that. So we pass in the column as the case that we're going to be looking at, and then depending on what the column is, we're going to run the code in between here. So the first case is responses. So if the column is equal to responses, then we're going to set up a stats URL, and this is going to be a link to our statistics page for that particular survey. We're using a new function here in WordPress called admin URL, and what it does is it generates a full path to a WordPress page. So in this case, the page that we're going to be linking to is admin.php page equals, and then this is the name of our function that we created for that admin page. And then we're also going to be passing in a survey ID here. So you can see the and survey ID equals, and then we're passing in the post ID that's coming in to this function. So that's going to give us a URL to our stats page for that survey. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to get the amount of responses for this particular survey, and we're going to call the previously created function SSP get survey responses. It's going to give us a number, and then we're going to generate our output string. So in this case, it's going to be an A tag, and the href of that A tag is going to have that stats URL that we just generated. We're going to give it a title of C survey statistics when they hover over that link, and then the value of this link text here is going to be the responses number. Okay. If the case is it's a shortcode column, then we're going to build our shortcode text here. So we're setting that a variable called shortcode, and it looks like this. So it's our SSP_survey ID equals, and then we're putting in the post ID dynamically that's coming in through this function. Next, we're going to generate the output string that we're going to return from this function. So in this case, it's going to be an input, a text input. We're adding an on-click event in here. This is just a JavaScript event that when they click this input, it's automatically going to select all the text. So it's calling this.select to do that. So the type of this input is text. The value is going to be the shortcode. And we're calling a PHP function called HTML special characters, which is just going to format our text for us there. And then lastly, before we close our input, we're going to pass in the attribute read only. Okay, so we close that up. And then each of these cases, you'll notice, end with this word break here. So that's how you do a switch case statement like that. Then we close our switch statement, and then we echo the output. So that's our survey column data function. So again, we need to call this function from somewhere. So we're going to update our hooks now for 1.6. So let's go back up to hooks here. So previously we just had this for our column headers. Now we're going to add this second hook in here. This hook is referencing a filter called manage post custom column. And then you can see that we're dynamically including the name of our custom post type in there. And you can learn more about this particular filter on the WordPress Codex over here. Again, so we target that particular filter, and then we say, hey, run our survey column data. All right. So this is probably a good time to update our table of contents. So let's go and do that now. So we added some filters in here. So let's add those. All right, so make sure you save your PHP file, and let's go back to WordPress now. And on our surveys admin page here, just reload. And you should be seeing content now show up in these columns. So notice we've got the number of responses now for our test survey. I've done a few tests already with bogus IP addresses, so I've got 8 responses. And then here's our shortcodes column. So you can see that it's dynamically generating a shortcode for us with the proper ID value in there. And if we click in here, it will select what's in there. So it just makes it really easy to copy that shortcode. We can just click and then do Control-C on your keyboard, and you've got it copied. So there we go. We've now learned how to add custom admin headers and column data to our plugin. So stay tuned for the next lecture. We're actually going to complete the stats page. And so like if we click this survey here, you can see it goes to the stats page and passes in the survey ID. We're going to build out this statistics page. So stay tuned for that.